Roosevelt. So you have such an extensive collection of Black Americana here. Can you tell us a little bit on how that got started?
Yes, but before I start, I would like to read this to you. Hopefully some of you will find parts of this exhibit offensive. If not, future generations will probably repeat the course. Okay. The next thing I would like to say is, in my presentations, I like to mention the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. One have always asked, why is it that you guys, meaning African Americans, would have a separate national anthem? Well, the reason why is because that national anthem that was written by Weldon Johnson is more relevant to our existence in this country than the national anthem. Also, I like to present the colors of the Black nationalist movement, which is black, red, and green. The red is for the blood, the black is for the people, and the green is for the land where Blacks spill their blood. Okay.
Awesome. So how did your collection get started?
My collection started when I was in the Air Force, and I had to return home from the Philippines in '71 in order to help bury my grandfather. My grandfather was a minister, and he collected gobs and gobs of books. One of the books that he had was called The Negro as Ape. It was written by a Reverend John Tyndall. I read the book and I was really baffled at how he was able to use the Bible to promote the right for Blacks to be enslaved. So that's piqued my curiosity. So initially I started collecting books. Then it went from books to the pieces that I have on hand now.
Now you lived in the South. Can you tell us what that experience was like?
Yes, living in the South, the segregated South, Memphis, Tennessee. One of the things about, growing up in the South, it was fantastic. The weather was beautiful. The community in which I was raised, we had our doctors, we had some lawyers, we had educators, we had store owners, and these individuals were Black. We had our church, which was the center of our community. Everything surround the church. Okay. Once we left our community, that's when we realized as a young man that something was different. Okay. I remember one Christmas, my mom took me to see Santa Claus. And as we were in line, they had some kids to the left of me and some kids to the right of me. And the line, and I really was excited about seeing Santa Claus. And I wanted to go to the left line because, it was shorter. But my mom said, you cannot go to the left line. And the reason why was because they had a sign that said, white kids, colored kids. Okay? White kids and colored kids. So living in a segregated city, one was exposed to many of the love of our community. But once you stepped outside of our community, it was vicious. It was Jim Crow laws was everywhere, and it was strongly enforced. Okay. So living in the South was very interesting as I look back on it. One of the things that I have to tell people is living in the South and seeing and experiencing the things that I have experienced, I still have love for everyone because of my foundation. Okay, because the parents taught us that we must love ourselves before we can love anyone else, and that hatred should not be any part of our existence.
How did that experience differ from coming to the Northwest?
Okay. Picture this. Okay. I was just discharged from the Air Force doing and I was there to serve my country. Okay. I was sitting on my mom's front porch about a week after I was discharged. And I'm reminiscing about the playground where I used to jump and run and things of this nature. It's early in the morning, 7, 8 o'clock. All of a sudden, a police officer comes toward my mom's house and he stops. And what he does is he looks at me and he signals to me like that. I'm wondering, what is this about? So I signal for him. Okay. At that point, he jumped out of his car, pulled out his gun, of course, had to call me the operative, the N-word, put me against the wall, and he searched me. At that moment, my mom came out and said, "What are you doing? My son has not done anything. He just came back from serving this country. What are you doing?" So that was something like, oh my God, this is interesting. And it brought back a lot of memories growing up in the South. So I said, okay, this is my home, I'm gonna stay. I applied for a position as a firefighter in the city. I was denied that position. So a friend told me, "Hey man, you know what? Bro, you are qualified for the job. Why don't you file an EEO complaint?" Which I did, and I won. But let me tell you, that sounds good. Oh man, you won. You won the battle. No, you didn't win the battle, because once you have filed a suit of that nature and you get to that position, there's going to be consequences. Okay? And doing a job as a firefighter, you have to trust. You must trust your fellow firefighters. Okay? And that did not happen. So I decided, after one of my friends that was living in Bremerton came home, and he said, "Man, you need to come up to Bremerton, man. It's, blase, blase, blase." He said, "It's a good place." I come to Bremerton. He lived on 4th Street. He was one of the ministers out of one of the first ministers out of Emmanuel Church. His family invited me out to dinner. And I noticed that, once he was, we was leaving the house, he didn't lock his doors. And I'm like, man, well, when we come back, I know some of his stuff is going to be missing. This is in the back of my head. we go to dinner, come back, everything is intact. The next morning, I wanted to do some research on Bremerton. And at that point, my friend was working at Bangor. As I walked out of his house toward the street, a police officer from Bremerton looked at me, and he was doing something like this. So I became guarded. Okay? I'm like, what the world is this? The guy was waving to me. Okay? So I waved at him. So then I walked over to the library that is the MLK library today on 4th Street. The people was just super nice. And it wasn't artificial, it was really, really nice. And I'm like, man, you know what? I think I'm going to hang here. And, and that's what happened. Okay.
Why don't we jump into your collection and maybe start with some of the pieces you have to do with slavery in the South.
Okay, first thing we're going to do, let's talk about this slave tag. Okay. I have a slave tag. Okay. Now I have to tell you, when we watch TV and we watch these movies about slavery, or better yet, like Gone with the Wind and those types of movies, when you see the slaves, they're like happy and singing and dancing and jumping up and down. Guys, that was way beyond the reality. Slavery was the worst infliction that one man can do to another. Because the peculiar institution, which is what today call our slavery, okay, was the hardest one. I have in my hand a slave tag. This slave tag was given to put on a slave that was a master at his craft. Like, for instance, he might have been a mason. He might have been a person that had good at instincts with horses, a carriage driver. So when the plantation owner would need extra money, he would rent his slaves out. But the slave had to have a tag, and also the other important piece is that he had to have a piece of paper in his pocket that corresponded with what the slave tag said. If that was not the case, he could be captured, treated as a fugitive runaway, and beat.
Well, and some of those pieces get into or start off the story of dehumanization of the slaves that kind of leads into a lot more of these pieces. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, yes. Within my collection, first of all, this is a bill of sale from New Orleans for some slaves. And this was the early 1800s. I have a slave rattle. Okay. This was put on the wrist or the ankle of a slave that had a history of running away. So when they move, you can hear it. It alarms the owner or the overseer that that person is running away.
So this degrading portrayal of Black people continued after emancipation. What items do you have that represent that continued racism and abuse of Black people?
I have this thing. Okay, we have to realize that caricatures, okay? Images are so important when people are forming opinions about other people. For instance, if you have never met an African American, but only through things of this nature, postcards that was stereotypical, advertising pieces, Currier and Ives, the great illustrators, the majority of their pieces, better yet, all of their pieces depicting African Americans show African Americans in very stereotypical forms, and it helped form how other people that have never met African Americans would perceive those African Americans. So I have in this bank, this is called the Jolly Inn Bank, okay? And the purpose, the use of this bank, you put a coin in the mouth, in the hand, and you push the button on the back, and the coin goes down in its mouth. Now, these features are really animated for effect. The other piece I'll show you would be dolls, okay? The dolls that were made, those dolls weren't made for the Black girls. They were made for the white girls, okay? The white kids. And so like, this is the topsy-turvy, okay? you have on one end the Southern Belle, and she's dressed in a very fancy dress, and you flip it over, and now you have the maid, which is a servant. And this went on and on and on and on.
That makes me think of the Sambos and memorabilia stuff you have in the case.
Yes.
I grew up as a little white girl in Southern California and went to Sambos. And that was one of my first introductions to seeing Black people.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
I loved seeing that stuff when I came
Yes.
in.
Yeah. Would you like to show some more?
Yes, sir.
We have the Sambo cup, the Sambo tiger. But in the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, we had a string of restaurants that was called the Coon Chicken Inn. The Coon Chicken Inn. Now, coon was a derogatory term that was used to describe African Americans. Coon. There are certain cities that they would call Coon Town. Okay. One of our first Black city councilmen was from Louisville, Kentucky, Marty Crutcher. And Marty shared a story about some Saturdays, the white Klansmen would ride through the Black community with guns. And the name of their game was, they was going on a coon hunt. So the African Americans had to gather in the churches and in certain houses to protect themselves from being murdered, lynched by these individuals. Now, so that's coon. Now, Coon Chicken Inn, as soon as you walk into the door of this mouth, of this caricature, everything in the restaurant had that picture. And also from the straws to the glass. And you could find those restaurants, Seattle, Portland, and Salt Lake City. So if you had never met an African American, but through these things, you'll think, oh my God, that's how African Americans look.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we're all familiar with the lawn jockey.
Yes, the lawn jockey, yes. Back in the 60s, early 70s, in Memphis, Tennessee, some of the young Black men would go to the white area that would have these, and they would shoot the head off of them because they were so disturbing. Now, there's been indications that the Underground Railroad used Jocko in order to help assist runaways. Okay, yeah, by using a lantern or a scarf that would say, you know, the man is not around. That they could, you know, it's a free, you know, you can walk or you can venture into this area. It's okay.
Why don't we move into some of the pieces you have in that case that have to do with the KKK?
Okay. Will do.
And also, I know you have an interesting story of Birth of the Nation. Do you want to tell us kind of the
Yes.
connection there?
Will do. Anytime you discuss African American history, which African American history, of course, is American history. But when we talk about things dealing with African American history or Black history, the Klan is included. The Klan is included because of what they have done and continue to do to African Americans. Now, I have an application for membership in the Knights of the KKK. This right here. And it states at first, dear sir, we have been requested by one of your personal friends to get in touch with you and inform you of this organization. And it asks you a series of questions.
I like some of the questions, like, are you a Gentile or a Jew? I mean, where were you born? Are you of the white race or of the colored race? Do you believe in the principles of a pure Americanism? Do you believe in white supremacy? What is your religious faith? And it's just crazy.
Yes.
Crazy.
Yes. And also, not only the application, but we also have a buckle. We have a token, a KKK token that was given out to a deserving faithful class member. Right here. We have clans manuals, and we have the KKK clan constructive or destructive magazine.
Wow.
We have a letter warning, this is from the Klan, saying that this person that they sent this letter to have violated some rule that the Klan holds dear to their heart, and they will be dealt with.
So do you think that this was to a white person who may have been helping
yes.
Black people?
Absolutely.
And it's to warn them they better stop?
They better stop,
Okay.
because if they don't, remember now, Jim Crow law stated that whites and Blacks have to be separated, and whites could not help Blacks. We have the KKK hood here, headgear here. Okay, and we have the Courier magazine. But most of all, we have an original hood from Centralia from 1953.
So the KKK was active here as
Yes,
well.
even in Bremerton it was active. The KKK was active in Bremerton, absolutely. Especially when Blacks started moving here in the 40s. Okay, better yet, even before the 40s. Okay, but especially during the 40s, because that's when Jim Crow was alive and well in Bremerton, and there was this lady, Lillian Walker. Wow, she took it on. What an amazing individual.
What did she do?
Oh, she did. She helped desegregate the counters. Okay, and
Nice.
other things. I mean, I would spend the rest of this presentation talking about her accomplishments.
Wow.
But we are going to honor her, which we have a park in Bremerton, but we need to do more for her.
Mm-hmm.
We need to do more for her.
Yeah.
Okay, you asked me about.
Oh, I'm sorry, the hood.
Oh.
Did that come from, I don't know if I remember this correctly, but did that come from a retired police officer?
No, commander.
Oh.
He was a commander on one of the Navy bases.
Oh.
Navy bases, yes.
And it was his hood, or?
It was his hood.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
And yes, okay. So, I mean, Klansmen, a lot of times we picture Klansmen as being these good old boys, big fat, big belly and things of nature, no, uneducated, no, the Klansmen were very educated, okay? They weren't dumb, okay? They weren't dumb. Their message to me as an African American was dumb, but they weren't dumb. Academically, we talk about institutional or systemic racism. The Klan had it such that in all facets of our system, they were there making policies.
And then the birth of a nation. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yes. The Birth of a Nation. The name of this book is The Klansman. It was written by Thomas Dixon. Okay, Thomas Dixon. Now, there's been two movies. the first movie, The Birth of a Nation, was done, I think, 1915, and it was directed and produced by D.W. Griffith. D.W. Griffith during that time was the foremost director. Okay, I mean, he was able to bring out the best action scenes and things of this nature as it relates to film taking. The Klansman, or better yet, The Birth of a Nation, is based on two white families right after Reconstruction. Okay, and that movie had an everlasting effect on America's cinema.
Mhm.
And let me tell you how. Let me share that with you. In The Birth of a Nation, there was two scenes that have always stayed with me, and I always tell people about these two scenes because they were so powerful. And you have to remember, the main actors weren't African Americans. They were white dressed in black, in blackface. Okay? There was just one scene in which the legislation or the Congress had flipped, and there were so many African Americans that had been elected, which during Reconstruction, there were quite a few African Americans that made it to, they were elected. Here we are in the House, and they supposed to be passing laws and enacting all things of this nature. Instead, the scene showed the whites that's dressed as blacks dancing, shooting dice, eating chicken, picking their feet, and of course eating the watermelon. Okay? And when you talk about Black Americana, the minute the negative stereotypes, you always have the watermelon and the chicken and the watermelon. I have never been able to figure that out. I think I asked a friend of mine that was white. I asked him, man, does white people eat chicken and watermelon? And he would laugh at that. But anyway, so they're in the chamber doing these things. Okay, so that scene had an impact. Now, but the biggest impact was a chase scene. There was this field Negro, the field hand. His name was Gus, and he was chasing the Southern Belle. And D.W. Griffin had, like I said, he had this way of transforming scenes and making it as though it's about to jump out of the screen. And he's focusing, the camera's focusing on Gus. And Gus is saying, oh, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you. The Southern Belle on the other end is like, oh no, oh no, oh no, you're not. And she's running, and Gus is running after her. He's salivating. He's salivating. Ooh, I want you, I want you, I want you. She's going, oh no, he can't have me. No, 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 no. All of a sudden, she reaches this ledge. She looked down. There's water and there's rocks. And she goes, well, if I jump over, I might die. Then it goes back to Gus. Gus is like, I got to get you, I got you, I almost got you. Okay. All of a sudden, she hurls herself into the water. She kills herself. At that moment, the Klan shows up, kills Gus, retake the plantations from those beasts, which were the African American, the slaves. So we said, you know what? That's a movie. What is it? Come on, that's a movie. Let me tell you, the night that movie was shown in cities, there were attacks on Black communities, Black townships. The black men were caught, lynched, castrated. And here's the thing: once you hang someone, that person is dead. But they would castrate the male and put the male's penis in his mouth. Symbolism. Okay. The president of the United States, Woodrow Wilson, previewed that that movie. And he stated that that was the best movie ever. Now, going back to the assault on the Black communities, okay? It was such that many cities outlawed the showing of that movie. Okay. The NAACP formed a campaign against lynching because between 1890 and 1882, there was, in the South, there was 850 African Americans that were hanged. Okay.
You've got some powerful images of that too, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yes, we do have. We have some images. I am in the process of getting some actual postcards. I'm waiting on them to arrive. A family in Central Kitsap heard about my collection, and they said that they would like to donate that to this my collection.
Oh wow.
Okay, so the Birth of a Nation. Now, the Birth of a Nation had a lasting effect. When you look at movies from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you would see some of the same stereotypes, And you know, actually, one of the stereotypes that we have with us is that angry black woman. That black woman is so angry because she might raise her voice. Maybe she might be assertive. But that started in the slave thing, and it was reinforced by D.W. Griffin, and it's with us today. When you look at the stereotypes of Blacks in the media, the movies, you say, wow, isn't that something? But if you think about these images that were shown in that movie, you will see where many of them came from. Like I said, we still have that today.
Mm-hmm. That is sure. I have heard you mention the term sundown. Do you want to give us an explanation of what that is?
Yes. In many cities, they had this rule that when sun came down, all of the Blacks must be out of town or off the street. Okay. Now, to bring that into light, many of your what happened in Tulsa, the Tulsa massacre, that was not the only one. In many of your cities, you had white mobs coming in and destroying townships. And the centerpiece on all of them was one thing: the rumor that a white woman had been assaulted by a Black man. Over and over again, these things happen. Now, this is not fake news. This is real. The sexual politics of our country, that is something that we run away from. We do not discuss. We do not discuss race, and we surely do not discuss the sexual politics of this country. It's like, oh no. But then you see those images, and those images are reinforced. Mm-hmm. And we know that love has no color, but because of our institutions, because of the mindset of our country, we are still hanging on to that. We are still hanging on to the sexual politics of this country.
And did that mostly take place in the South, or did we have it here in the Northwest as well?
You had it down South. You had it even in the Northwest. Oregon. In actuality, Oregon. There was this saying, "Go west, young man," but that wasn't meant for African Americans. It was meant for only whites because they was going to turn Oregon. The goal was to turn Oregon into a white area. Okay, and when Blacks did come through there, they had to leave. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. Eastern Washington. It was filled with clans activity and other white supremacist groups. And I'm speaking about the 20s, 30s, 40s. Okay. There's a thing. When you leave Seattle, you're good as an African American. You are very good. But then as you go up north further, up to Bellingham, okay, it gets worse and worse and worse. Once you cross the border into Canada, it's like, wow, it's a new damn day, Now, Western Washington, I'm safe. But as I go toward Spokane, it's worse and worse and worse. Okay. So it happens, yes, in this area, absolutely, not on the south. And see, the thing, even at in the north, see, the north we experienced as African Americans, we experienced covert racism. In the South, it was in your face. And we always ask the question, well, which is the best? Well, I would say, well, I want someone to tell me how they feel. But then I would assume through that experience that that person is also. Okay.
The other term I've heard you use is redlining.
Redlining.
And can you explain that?
Yes, redlining is a system that's used to prevent for real estate purposes, okay? Those homeowners or what have you could not get loans. They could not reinvest in their property. So, but what happened is, and even it happened here in Bremerton, okay, up in the West Hills area, in which the city, the county, what have you, labeled it as being a blighted area, eminent domain. We have to put it in that form. Eminent domain, blighted neighborhood. What would happen is you say, this is blighted area, and they would buy out those homeowners, African-American homeowners, at a very, very low price. But then they'll resell it to the developers at a substantial property, meaning that those African Americans have been displaced. And this happened not only across the country. So redlining, is a system that is racist in tone.
And are you referring to Sinclair Heights when you're?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not.
Okay.
Sinclair Heights was a different story.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a map, Priya, showing? You want to talk about Sinclair Heights a little bit?
Oh, yes. Sinclair Heights. Back in 1942, 43-ish, 42, there was a call during World War II. There was a call for people to come out to work in the Navy Yard. Okay, many Blacks from the South joined that migration. The city of Bremerton, some of their leaders, contacted DOD, Department of Defense, and said, look, there are too many coming here. Okay, so that recruitment stopped. Okay, that recruitment stopped. The Sinclair Heights was built for housing for the African Americans. Now, it was segregated housing.
So they said they're going to all come. We're going to put them in one place.
In one place, okay, segregated housing. And Sinclair Heights was, although it was segregated, I mean, the buses would not run up there, and the cops called it Coon Town, and we didn't have as many services up there as down, but we had a post office, we had a postmistress, we had community centers, we had choirs, we had a church. So we had things to contain us or maintain us, but it was segregated, okay? But again, through segregation, our spirit was never dampened, okay? But and eventually after the war, many Blacks, there wasn't that big demand for African American for workers on the shipyard. So many of the African Americans left for Seattle, Tacoma. Many moved back down south. But many of the African Americans that did come here, even up until the 60s and 70s, were coming here to escape Jim Crow.
Hmm.
It was in the South.
Yeah. On the Enlighten website, they've got a copy of the literacy test that I believe you have
Yes.
to, a Black person would have to take in order to be able to vote.
Yes.
Do you want to show us that? Actually, I think you've got a copy to put on the Zoom.
Okay,
Talk
now,
about that a little bit.
do you have it? Yeah. Okay, here's the deal, guys. I always offer people money if they could take this test and pass it in 10 minutes. I mean, I would have offered anyone that could pass it in 10 minutes, $100. No, I would give them 20 minutes to complete it. And I'll give them $100. But here's the deal. I'm gonna be the one that's gonna make sure I test. I'm gonna be the auditor or the registrar. Okay. I'm gonna be the one that's gonna check to see if these are correct. That means, man, I'm not getting rid of my $100. But the law said that this is something that needs to happen. So this is the test from Louisiana. And some of the questions. Okay. Do what you are told to do in each statement. Nothing more, nothing less. Be careful, as one wrong answer denotes failure of the test. You have 10 minutes to complete the test. First one, draw a line around the number of letter of the sentence. Another one, above the letter X, make a small cross. Number 10, in the first circle, it has a series of numbers from 1 to 5. In the first circle below, write the last letter of the first word beginning with L. And it goes on and on and on.
And if you didn't pass, you didn't get to
You didn't
vote.
get to vote. Right. But the key part of it was the registrar or the auditor was the one that checked.
They could decide.
Right.
So,
So we didn't get to vote. Many of us did not get to vote. But then, but God, that sounds familiar.
yeah.
Today. So when one asks me, have things changed? Well, no. It's been reframed. It's been reframed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But as always, African Americans are going to survive. We're going to survive it.
Another item in your collection, there's several of these pictures of I am a man.
Yes.
What does that refer to?
Okay.
And there's also a button over
Hold
here.
on for a minute. Excuse me, just 1 sec. All right. I am a man. I am a man. I am a man. In 1968, April 4th, 1968, Dr. King was in Memphis. He was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee at the Lorraine Hotel. The reason that Dr. King was in Memphis was to help the Black sanitation workers form a union. The sanitation workers that did the work were all Black. The drivers were white. The supervisors were white. The working condition was awful. And there were many accidents, serious accidents that happened to the sanitation workers. Okay, but those men got together and they said, you know what? We need to form a union. Excuse me. One of the union organizers, this man, Baxter Richard Leach. This man had a 4th degree education. He had a 4th grade education. There were times in which he would get off work and he would have to dust himself off, removing the maggots from his clothes before he entered his house. Those workers supported the Black community. They helped the economic peace in Memphis, Tennessee. As the strike was going along, like I said, Dr. King came to Memphis and he had a series of marches. One evening, the mayor and the superintendent of public works called Baxter Leach into his office, him and a few other the guys. And the mayor goes, you know, boy, I need you boys to go back to work. Now remember, guys, one of the things that Black men could not do was look a white man in the face, in the eyes, okay? This man looked the mirror in the face, in the eyes, and said, I am not a boy, I am a man. His cohorts echoed, I am a man, I am a man. And it jump-started this campaign to unionize those Black workers. I am a man. Now, in Memphis, Tennessee, there's a park that's named I Am a Man Park. This man, Baxter Leach, like I said, he only had a 4th grade education, but he have suppered with President Obama, Ms. Harris, before she became vice president, kings and queens. Okay, he received the Nelson Mandela Freedom Award for what he and his friends, his cohorts did. So anytime you see a sign, I am a man, that's what that means. That's what it means, that Black men, you know, we weren't looked upon as being men. We were looked upon as being boys. That's why saying boy to an African-American male is derogatory. It's very, very derogatory. Okay.
You've also got some
Excuse me.
Black Panther posters in here.
Yes, yes. Oh, and the Black Panthers, man. The Black Panthers, man. God, can you do that for me?
Yeah.
Yes. I need you guys to listen to something. Oh, the Black Power movement. My God. You know, the Panthers. Well, I'm gonna do the Panthers, but let me tell you, the Black Power movement, man. The Panthers was an organization that was developed because of police brutality in Oakland, California. Okay, but that wasn't only in Oakland; it was around the country. You see, since the 1800s, there have been this friction between the African-American community and the police departments. So it's not new. The assaults by officers, the killings of Blacks today that we're looking at, this is not new. This is not new. anyway, the Panthers was an organization whose purpose was to empower the Black community, to protect the Black community from the police department. But then the police department was supposed to be there to serve and protect, but that was not the case. And strings of Black Panthers parties moved across the country. Okay, in Memphis, Tennessee, you had the Black Panthers, you had the Invaders, and you had the Black Knights. The Black Knights was an organization that was funded by Isaac Hayes. Many people are not aware that he funded the Black Knights. It wasn't there to kill people, it was there to protect the community. The Black Panthers started the early nutrition program for kids. Okay, now people would say, well, Head Start. Well, those ideals came from the Black Panthers because the Black Panthers was for community. They were not there to destroy the Black community. They was there to run the drug pushers out because they realized that the drug pushers did not own the airplanes that brought the drugs in. They was there for protection of the Black community. The Black Power movement, when James Brown came out with this, oh my God, guys, let me tell you, you saw Black dudes walking around, even the entertainers, they would have their hair caked, slicked, and dyed to the side, okay, chemicalized, putting chemical in, straightened out. James Brown even had one. Mm-hmm. The Black Power movement came along, and guess what? Boom. It's like, wow, I can look in the mirror, I look good. Mm-hmm. I can do things for myself. I want my community to be strong. Nothing about hate. Nothing about hate. It was about protection. It was about Black pride. Because many of us have suffered from PTSS, which is post-traumatic slave syndrome. We see some of that today, but the Black Power movement was able to empower African-American communities to maintain and to protect themselves. Okay? So, and the Black Power movement had, you had Angela Davis, you had Dr. King. One of the other things that I would like to tell you is to share with you guys that Rosa Parks, Rosa Parks came to play for standing up and sitting down. But before Rosa Parks, there was a young Black teenager. Her name was Claudette Colvin. She did it before Rosa Parks. But the thing is that they couldn't use her as the picture. Okay, number one, these are some of the things, and these are realities. Number one, she became pregnant. Number two, she was too dark. Okay, what does that have to do with it? Well, she was too dark. When you look at the progress of the civil rights movement, as long as Blacks were being beat and killed, things of this nature, at Selma, okay, everything remained the same until the whites became involved. When those white kids were killed in Mississippi, then you saw a change. Okay, now we go back to the color thing with Claudette. Yes, okay. So she was pregnant, she was too dark, and they felt that she would not be able to grab the conscience of white America. But Rosa Parks was educated, she was light-skinned, okay? And yes, we are still today dealing with the issue of light, dark skin, okay? Good and bad hair. Although the Black Power movement said that's irrelevant. But as we go up, we go back down. Nina Simone, this fantastic singer, talks about the blues, the backlash blues. We make
strange fruit.
Yeah, right. We make progress 2 feet, we lose 3. Mm-hmm. Over and over again. In our history, that's where we are. So the Black Power movement, the Panthers, those groups all played a great role in developing Black pride. And why do we need Black pride? But if you have been, like I said, if you've been told all your life that you were a servant, that you couldn't do these things, that thing, you would think the same thing. Okay.
Well, and we think that we've come so far from those times, but really we haven't, as we can see, what's going on around us.
Right.
What do you think of the Black Lives Matter movement?
Okay. The Black Lives Matter movement. Well, for me, it's a lifestyle. Okay. When I came out of my mom's womb, I was protesting for equality for my people. My father marched with Dr. King. My father was at Selma. My grandfather was put out of Dogville, Mississippi. He was ran out of Dogville, Mississippi because he wrote Congress complaining about the inequities of sharecropping. The white council was going to kill him. He was able to get away, but some of the whites within the community got together and he brought him in with the promise, Mr. Cotton, we're going to bring you back, but you cannot write Congress again. My grandfather continued to fight. Okay. When I go to my tomb, I'm going to be doing the same thing. My son, my grandsons, they're still fighting the same thing. All we want, when you listen to the Black spirituals back in the 1800s, on the plantation, the drum beats, it was about freedom. It was about equality. The Black Lives Movement, our lifestyle, that's what it is saying. But we have this ability to attempt to negatize any movement that Blacks are doing. We're not promoting hatred. We're just saying, look, we just want an equal share. And plus, the main thing is making the police accountable to what is happening in our community. Yeah. So I'm a strong supporter of Black Lives Movement, of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I would to say this, a couple of years ago, Kaepernick did his kneeling. And it was because of the young man that was killed in New York City. And he was saying, I can't breathe. And what I did is I contacted many of the churches in the area to ask them what they put on their reader board, I can't breathe. I have to tell you, many of the white churches say yes. A few of the Black churches say yes. But some of the Black churches said no. I bet he would not get back in touch with me. Okay, so we moved some years to what happened with George Floyd, with the Black Lives Matter. Okay, I contacted the white churches. There were some white churches, St. Paul, that did it before I even asked them to put it on their reader board. Again, the Black churches, many of them did not do it. One Black church wanted me to change it to, but at first he agreed, and he said, well, what I would like you to do is to put on there, no lives matter until Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, no, that's diluting the point, okay? Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because every movement that we as African Americans have made, it came with partnership with the Quakers. Started that off in the slave, okay? Conducting the Underground Railroad, putting their life on the line for us, okay? Then it just continued to grow. Down south, you had people teaching Blacks to read, which was against the law, which was totally against the law. Let me read this to you, okay? I have to read this to you. This is what the master of Frederick Douglass said. Frederick Douglass was an abolitionist, okay? This is what Frederick Douglass overheard as a slave kid. this is from the master, learning would spoil the best of the end in the world. If you learn him how to read, education would forever unfit him to be a slave. If you learn him how to read, he'll want to learn how to write. And with this accomplished, he'll be running away with himself, meaning that he would realize that freedom is freedom. And that's what I want to be. Okay, sorry, that.
No, that's beautiful. We talked a lot about stories of racism and degradation, and there's also a lot of positive things in here.
Yes.
Contributions from our own Bremerton area, from
Yes.
Kitsap County.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us some of those?
Yes. First, I was talk to you about, like I said, Shirley Marty Crutcher. He was the first of 2 African Americans to become a city councilman at the same time. The same year they were elected. Marty Crutcher started out in Louisville, Kentucky. At 4 years old, he was helping the family on their farm. They had a tobacco farm. They were sharecroppers. And Marty, at 4 years old, job was to pick the worms from the tobacco leaves. Okay. Marty, mother's health became dire, so to speak. So they had to move to another city. And I told you guys about the coon hunt that Marty experienced. Okay. Once he was in Richmond, he became a drugstore runner, meaning that he would run medication to various customers. Okay. From there, he got into a fight with the owner of the pharmacy. The pharmacy had said, "Look, man, I don't have to pay you," because Marty said, "Hey, look, you owe me for 2 months' wages. Can you please pay me?" And the owner said, "Man, I don't have to pay you because you are colored." Okay. So Marty got into a fight. He went to court, and they said to him, "You can either go to jail or go to the military." Let me tell you something. That man goes to the military. He was a steward. During that time, the role of the Black soldier many times was as a steward, as a waiter, as a man's servant. Okay. But Marty Crutcher received his education, became a submariner, a city councilman, a business owner, and a civic leader in Bremerton. That's one. J.D. Sweet, a teacher out at Central Kitsap. He's a teacher at Olympic High School. J.D. left Arkansas, and he vowed that he would never return to Arkansas because of what he experienced as a Black teen. The racism was so thick, he said, "I would never return," and he never did. He is one of the best educators in this county. J.D. Sweet.
Still teaching?
Still teaching.
Oh, wow.
Still teaching, okay? Al Coven, as you know, Al Coven was a city councilman. He also started a credit union. Him and some of his cohort, he started a credit union, and he was a Tuskegee Airman. Okay, here in Bremerton. Also, we had a Buffalo soldier here in Bremerton. Also, he died, I think, about 10 years ago. Okay, so those accomplishments. Diana Robinson, she's the mother of the Kitsap County Black history. Okay, she have done an extensive work on preserving Black history. Rainey Woods was the first African American policeman here in Bremerton. Okay, he died, a few years ago, but he was an Air Force vet, so him and I really related on that level. Okay, and he was an asset to our community.
Wow.
So there are so many stories. Lillian Walker, Nathaniel Sargent. Okay, I mean, on and on. There are so many pioneers that whose shoulders I'm stepping on.
Mhm.
I'm stepping on because of what they went through. It makes my life better
Mhm.
here in Kitsap County, and Kitsap County is getting better and better and better. And the generation, the young generation that's coming up, I see that it's going to be different. See, I thought that when I was in high school, we thought, hey, our generation is going to solve all of these problems. Let me tell you, the generation that's coming up now, I admire these young kids. I admire the young kids. And you know what? They they would grow up not saying, well, I'm colorblind, because when a person tell me that they're colorblind, they're lying. You know, it's interwoven in our society. It's interwoven in our brains. Okay, we see color,
Mhm.
but always that but that color doesn't translate into stereotypes. You know, if this person that is not my color, okay, he's a white kid. Okay, I'm gonna judge him, as Dr. King said, by the nature of his character. And that's all we as African Americans are saying. Judge me by my character.
Mhm. Well, that is great words to end on.
Okay.
I think we're going to open it up to some questions from some of the people out there on Zoom.
Okay.
Hi, Roosevelt, that was such a wonderful presentation. One of the questions we have is that what should we do now is the point of it. What do you think are some of the most effective ways of righting the wrongs at this time, of getting equality now?
And what we should do is that neighbor that you have, if that neighbor is different than you, get to know the neighbor. Ask the question, talk about race, talk about race, talk about our differences, and we'll find out that we don't have that many differences. The values that a white person have is similar to the values that black people have. Okay? We love, we dislike, we laugh, we shout, we jump up and down. So my advice, I would say, get to know a person of a different ethnicity. Okay? You know, join a group. Listen to young kids. Okay? Listen to the young kids. Okay? You know, we have always said, well, through education, you know, that will solve everything. Now, if we're talking about book learning, that's one thing. Because like I said earlier, the clans were very educated, but look what they have done. What I'm talking about is educating yourself to different communities that doesn't look like you, communities that you might perceive as being different than you. Okay. I hope I answered that.
Yes, you did. That was very good. Two things that came up. One was there's a movie on Amazon Prime that's called "Who Put the Klan in the Ku Klux Klan?" And it's interesting. It addresses some of the points you made. That it was the Scotch-Irish people in Kentucky, Tennessee area that who were clans, had the real clan in Scotland. You know, that those were how the Scottish people were organized, and they brought it over, and they were relatively educated, knowing Greek and Latin, because one of the K's is also a Greek word. So it just leads into what you said, confirms even more what you said, but it's for free on Amazon now if you want to see that. The other, sometimes it's the bad things start with the family. both, is there anything that you think of to change the structure of the families or the thinking early on for both Black families and white families and mixed families? Because there's a large population of mixed families. And again, a lot of people nowadays, when they ask for race, they just say, I don't want to say, because you're still asked race on different things. But can you talk about maybe points that that need to be changed with how the families are organized now?
Concerning the Klan, the Klan started in Tennessee. Okay, started in Tennessee, and it was what happened is that they figured out that the Black populace had this. They was afraid of Haints, which was white. Okay, which are actually ghosts. Okay, and that goes back to slavery, goes back to Africa, okay, some of those beliefs, okay? And they formulated, well, guess what? We can scare them. And it started out as, in actuality, it started out as a way to keep the Black male from the white female. Now, when you really, when there are articles that are out there that would justify my point or piggyback on my point, that was the original purpose of the Klan. Then it went into a political scare tactics. And from there to, because remember now, the power to vote, in order to prevent Blacks from voting, they put all of these roadblocks, and there were Blacks that were killed just because they wanted to vote. Okay, so that's the Klan. Okay, the families. How do you see? We see in the Black family, we have learned the history of America. We see the benefits of being American. But many of us have not experienced those same rights or those same terms on an equal basis. When someone asks me, well, they asked me on a questionnaire my race, and I just flatly refused to tell them. And I would say to that person, well, that's your choice. But just because you refuse, just because 100 or 1 million refuse, guess what? We have a problem, a race in this country, and that we have to talk about it. Okay. There are a large percentage of interracial individuals in this country. Better yet, when you look at it, you're not going to find a peer, what have you, because the African American is a product of the Africans, Native Americans, and Europeans. Okay. So but we are defined by, at one time, 1/10 or 8% mean that you're African American. When people come to me and they say, well, my mom is white, my father's Black, that means that I'm a mix. Okay, I get that. But here's the thing is that when you are applying for that job or that admission to college or a loan, and if you have these African looks, guess what? You might be denied those things based on that. But like I said, it's that person's choice. The other thing that I want to emphasize is Black America is a product of America, and we are a mixture. And I mean, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. You know, one thing just that happened to me is that I received a call from a friend of mine. He was really excited. He said, "Man, I was just told that we have a Black city councilwoman in Bremerton." He was just so excited. I'm like, "Really?" I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "No, we don't." He said, "Yes, we do." He said, "Man, I just read it in the paper. It stated that there is a woman of color on the city council." I said, "Wait a minute, bro. She's Filipino. She's not African American. Okay? She's not African American." So, you know, so I never can jive with the issue of people of color because I'm 70 years old. It took me 50 years of telling people I'm not colored, I'm African American. But now, you want me to go back to saying that I'm colored? No, that's not going to happen. So I know that's a whole juggernaut of stuff to your question, you know, but honestly, I don't know. But within the family, we must start talking about race. Now, in the Black family, we have to talk about race. We have to have that conversation with our teenage boys. We have to have that conversation with our teenage boys. If you do not, you are doing him a disservice. You're doing him a disservice. And I would say to white parents, if you think that your kids are going to have Black friends, talk to them about the racial composition, not to make white people jealous. I mean, not jealous, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Not to make them feel guilty, because they do not have anything to feel guilty about. You educate them, we educate each other. And in that way, we'll form a better society. Okay. Sorry.
Mr. Smith, was there a question there too? Mr. Smith, I just wanted to say thank you very much. But is someone there? Are you? Can you hear me? Okay, good. So I wanted to thank you so much for your presentation. And at the end there, you also, throughout the program, you presented the complexities, that things are not just easy to understand, but there's a lot of complexity, and almost every one of your statements you could have had a whole nother program on. So again, we thank you for the community and for enlighten that you presented this in such a good way. And I'll say the rest of the comments that are now in the chat room are just all those commending your wonderful performance. Thank you very much. I think we can probably.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that? Okay.
You know, not like.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.